So let's come now to the real cost of inventory. All right, there are multiple costs, like I was telling you, and you as an entrepreneur needs to know what on earth is going on. There's too many. So, for example, purchasing cost. There is things like, yes, you purchase the good, the cost of the good, but you must also take into account freight, carriage, railage. You have to take all those into account. What does this mean? This cost means that it's all the transportations that you're going to use to get your goods onto the shelf. For example, you are a retail company, you sell product, you know that you need to send trucks. You need to send trucks to fetch those products. Until all those costs need to be known, until you put that product in the shop for people to purchase, then it's ready for consumption. So these are all the costs that are involved. For example, there's two costs that they want you to know: the ordering cost or the acquisition. Very important. So there is many costs. Whatever you are reading there is just for your information, for you to understand. But one of the important costs that you need to understand is the ordering cost. Okay? And obviously, there is the cost of carrying and holding a product. Always it comes to two or three things. What are those two things? The ordering cost and the carrying or holding of inventory. These are two important. Why? Because they want you to understand this concept. This concept is called the economic order quantity. Okay? They want you to understand this cost, and that's why they want you to know what is the ordering cost and the carrying or holding of those inventory. Okay? So what is the economic? It's a concept. What is the economic order quantity? It is the quantity to order that best minimize the cost of holding and the cost of ordering. Because you as an entrepreneur and any business would like to minimize the cost and maximize the revenue. That's all. So we want to make sure that whatever ordering that we are doing, it's coming to the minimum cost for the company. Right. So this is a beautiful concept. I want you to go through the theory. Just read. Again, I say, just give it a read. Give it a read. And if you're not understanding a concept, probably I have provided some guidance next to it. That's all. Give a read. But what you need to be able to do is the example again. It is the example, right? Also, one thing that you need to add as well, it's the delivery time. Whatever you're ordering, there is something as the delivery time and the replenishment of inventory. You don't want to run out. You don't run out of inventory before ordering. You need to order before your inventory is over. I repeat, you need to order before your inventory is over. Therefore, what does that mean? You need to have to know when is the exact time that you need to order before your inventory is over. Why? Because you are an entrepreneur. You are in the business of profit. If your production has a problem or your production breaks down because, for example, there is no enough inventory, well, that's a problem. That's suicide in the world of business. Your business will go bankrupt. Your business will fail. And you, as an entrepreneur, you are in the business of making successful project or business. So Right. So I'm really speaking to entrepreneurs here. All right. So this is an example. Like I said again, best way to understand this, do the example. You need to know, for example, the number of orders, very important, the annual ordering cost. We do 20, as you can see here, there's 24 orders that are being made. We take the annual requirement divided by the quantity per order. Straightforward, simple fraction. Annual requirement, how many units or of something we're using for our production for the year. We divide that by the quantity per order. How many do we order in bulk at once? We order 800 units at once, right? So this is, we order in bulk, and one order, we order this amount, this quantity, 800. So then we can find the number of orders. What is the annual ordering cost? We take what it cost per order, multiply by the number of orders. Average quantity in inventory, you know the average. We take the total quantity per the total quantity per order, which is 800 divided by 2. It's an average, right? What is the annual holding cost? Annual holding cost. Remember two things: the ordering cost and the holding cost. Ordering cost, holding cost. For what purpose? For the purpose of us calculating the economic ordering quantity. And I repeat again, what is the economic ordering quantity? It is, we try to minimize the cost. And this is a definition I provide for you. It is the quantity to order that best minimize the cost of holding inventory and the cost of ordering ordering the inventory. All right, so that's for the part of the theory. I want you to take the example that is provided and to go through it. Obviously, if you have a big order size, you will have less number of order. If you are ordering a lot at once, you will order only few times. That's why you can see, if we're ordering 800 units at once, we have 24 orders to do for the year. But if we are ordering 19,200, sorry, the last 1 year. If we're ordering 19,200, then we're just gonna do one order. That's it, one order, and it takes care of everything. Cool. But what is the problem? The problem is you're gonna have that inventory that you need to keep somewhere. Keeping that inventory costs you money as well, because you have to place that inventory in a safe place, it's a secure place. Obviously, you are an entrepreneur. You don't want that they may steal your inventory, so it costs to hold that inventory. That's the meaning of what we're doing here. So we want to make sure which one minimizes the cost. As you can see, the lowest cost is this one. It's 10,200. That's the lowest cost. And we can get, if we do 12 orders for the year, instead of 24, we can divide it by 2. If we have 12, we can minimize our cost. We can minimize our cost, but there's a formula. Obviously, this formula is good. We've never had an exam where they ask this, but remember again, like I told you, we want you to know these things. We just want you to have a knowledge of this. That's it. But if it comes There you go. You need to know how to deal with it. Okay, cool. So that's the second concept we've covered. It is the concept of the economic order quantity. That's the second concept. And I also told you at what point do we reorder? There is a formula for that, because remember I said you need to order before before your inventory runs out, because you don't want to mess your production, right? So that's about it. Any question on this before we touch on the actual appointment of overhead? So the last concept that we're going to touch is the appointment of overhead. Like I told you, overhead is indirect cost. We have direct cost. We have direct cost that is involved in the main production. And then you have a service production. The service production is there to support the production. The service is there to support. For example, HR. It is there to support the actual production. All right? So there is 3 methods, and this is the direct method, the step method, and the linear algebraic method. We don't ask you to memorize these methods. We're just asking you to know them. That's all. So give it a quick read, but I've done something for you. Again, like I said, I have juxtaposed these things for you so that you can compare one method with the other. So I know some of you have not gone through the learning unit, but this is some of the things I'm doing on your OneNote, is that after you've read and when you begin to do an example, you can compare the direct method with the step method with the linear algebraic methods. Rabia, what do you think about this? Does it help somehow? Instead of you browsing up and down, moving from one screen to another, or from one page in your textbook to another, you can have everything in front of you at once, so as to look at it and compare. Yes. So let me see, who else is here? I think Stephen is here, right? Stephen, just unmute yourself and say hi. I think Stephen is here. I think Anuske left. But Stephen, if you can unmute yourself, just pop in and say hi. But yeah, Stephen, we can hear you.
Oh, you can. It wasn't
All right,
making
cool,
me
cool.
unmute. Ah, sir.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, Stephen, what do you think about this? This way of putting your notes so that you can compare, methods, for example.
What do I think of the way you're doing it now? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Is this
I
helpful?
joined. Yes, it is helpful. Thanks. I joined
Okay.
a bit late, but it looks really
No,
good.
it doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. In any case, we do have the recording. You're gonna go through the recording, but I also wanted to show you this to the entire class, to say that use this, take an example, practice on a particular example, and if you want to compare the methods, instead of browsing, scrolling up and down, actually you could do it this way, where you can have a view of all the methods all at once. Okay, cool. So remember again, what is the meaning of this? Is that you have the main department and you have the service department. For example, in this example here, they tell you that there's 3 service departments. The service department are the administrative services, human resources, and plant and facilities. And these two departments are there to support the production department. And the two production departments are mixing and bottling. There you go. So whatever cost incurred into this service department, we need to reallocate this cost into these two main production departments. That's all. And there is a direct way of doing this. That's what we call the direct method. There is the step method where you some of the human resources. Okay, this is a good way of viewing this as well. If you look here, the human resources, for example, people we will need to allocate people to the administration. We will need to allocate also people to the plant and facility. So you can see that HR, some of the costs will need to be reallocated to the other service department. That's what we call the step method, where some of these, the administration, we are running a business, administration is valuable for the entire business. So some of the costs in the administration will need to be reallocated to the plant facility. Okay, the algebraic method is quite straightforward. We don't ask this at the exam. Again, remember, that's not the purpose. It's not, if it's not in the exam, sir, I don't want to know about it. It shouldn't be like that. We just want you to understand the concept. What is the concept of the algebraic is that we determine a percentage. And so for the allocation, there is a percentage. All right, so that's the meaning of this. And I want you to just give it a try, give it a practice. Should you have a particular issue that you're encountering, first thing is that the annotation will be able to direct you, especially when you don't understand where is one cost or the other. And so just give it a try. But like I said, all these that you are scrolling, you don't need to scroll. You don't need to scroll. I've already put the method here for you at one point, at one place, sorry. And that's it. Okay. We're going to finish actually with the final thing. This is what is even part of your actual first question of the assignment. But like I said, you know, it's just a bit of theory, but you understand, therefore, that you have the direct material, the direct labor, and you have the applied manufacturing overhead. That gives you the total manufacturing cost. In other words, you have the direct and then you have the indirect. The overhead is your indirect cost. And your direct cost plus your indirect cost gives you your total cost. What is allocation rate? Allocation rate is just when we're looking at the budgeted manufacturing overhead cost. Remember, the whole exercise is to take the indirect cost and to allocate it to the main production department. To take the overhead cost, the indirect cost, and allocate it to the main production department. All right? So an allocation rate will be, we have, let's say, total manufacturing overhead cost. We have a chosen basis divided by a chosen basis. We will have what the allocation rate is. It is a rate. It is a percentage. A rate is a percentage, right? And so when we're doing this planning, especially you as an entrepreneur, you will need to budget how much it's going to cost. Especially the budgeting comes also from information of last year. Let's say last year we spent this amount. So we can fairly say this year we might spend more or less what we spent last year. So that's what budgeting is. We look into the future, right? So, but when we do that budgeting, it might happen that we over allocated or we under allocated. Okay? That's where the principle of under applied and over applied manufacturing overhead comes in. Simple. If the actual overhead cost is greater than what we budgeted, than what we applied, budgeted, which is mean applied, then we will have either an over or an under application. So actual overhead minus, so if you look here, actual overhead cost minus the applied overhead cost gives you either an over or an under application of cost. And what do we do with that over and under application cost of sale? We can either credit the cost of sale or debit the cost of sale. And I provide an explanation of this. Here it is in your textbook, and you can see. Right. So for the sake of time, we're not going to have the opportunity to cover every single line, but this is what it comes down to, is the fact that you need to understand for your production, for your labor, you need to know what is the allocation rate. Question 1 of your assignment speaks about this allocation rate. All right. So the fixed manufacturing overhead here and the variable manufacturing overhead gives you the total manufacturing overhead. I trust that this is straightforward. So what is the allocation rate? We take the budgeted manufacturing overhead, 16,000 plus 8,000, which gives you in your textbook there was a mistake. I did correct it. As you can see, these annotations can be quite useful because it also allows me, in case there's an error in your textbook, to actually correct it. All right, but we understand now the 24,000 divided by 2,000, because we budgeted 2,000 units. 2,000 units. So 24,000 divided by 2,000 units gives us the rand amount, 12 rand per unit produced. This is what the allocation rate is. Okay, so we can do the same for the labor hours, the people that we're paying. For example, 3 rand per labor hour. Okay, and for the machines, we can do also the same. What is the allocation rate? We're gonna look at the total machine hours. So we take the total budgeted manufacturing overhead divided by the budgeted machine hours. Straight forward. Okay, I've also added this, which is some of you might appreciate. For question 5.11, you could basically just, if you want to go to the solution, you could just click there and it takes you to the actual solution. So I thought this could be somehow useful when you have a question and you can, yes, so this is just a link. You look at the question instead of you browsing, so I'm just avoiding that some of you may be frustrated with browsing, with scrolling, with moving from one page to another. Just put everything for you in one place. But this is the last concept, the traditional costing system and the ABC. Very important. What is the difference between the traditional costing system and what is the difference with the ABC? And I'm also linking your theory here. I'm linking your theory to the actual examples. For example, if you go here, you will see it says example. If you click on it, it will take you to the actual example. And you can see also that there is theory here. You could click on it, which will take you back to the theory on a particular question. Very important. I just found that will be somehow useful. But understand the difference between the traditional method and the ABC. Understand it? It's just a bit of a read. But like I tell you, whatever you're going to read in this course, in this module, it's worth nothing if you don't do the actual example. The way that you make sure that you understand the concept is by doing this. Like I said, it's a practical module that requires you to take the example and to try it out. And guess what I've done again? I did it again. I'm providing you again the comparison between the methods. For example, the traditional methods and the ABC. If you want to see as you go through solving it, I am providing you. This, by the way, is part of your theory. It does tell you the difference between, for example, the ABC and the traditional method. As you can see here, for the receiving, the packaging, and the maintenance, there is no allocation from the other side, okay, as you can see here. But please go through this. Please go through this. I'm providing this to you, making sure that when you use this example, you can use both the traditional method and the ABC. It is straightforward. I can tell you, once you do the example, you will see how easy it is. Do the example, close your book, and if you didn't do well, you will know where you went wrong. Okay. So basically that's it. So whatever I'm scrolling here is already provided up there. And there is also another method, which is the unit-based driver. The unit-based, please look at this. I've just made some important indication of where you need to go. Right, so that's it for this learning unit. This, again, like I said, I cannot go line by line, but this was to provide you also, again, the usefulness of what was provided to you, but it's going to require you to do the actual examples, to try if you understand, and please let me know if there is a particular concept, there's something that is not making sense, that you are struggling with, please reach back to me so that we can discuss it again, all right? But this was actually an overview of a very long chapter. I have to say that the longest chapter in this module is Unit 5. There's a couple of methods there, of concept that you need to understand. But like I said again, focus yourself to the actual examples. Do the examples, practice. And should something be really difficult for you to understand, feel free to reach back to me. All right. So signing out, wishing you all the best.